All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have just heard New Hampshire's All Right If You Like Fighting by Scissor Fight. Of course, they're out of Portsmouth, uh, New Hampshire. Yes, I think I said that right. It's
Yes.
spelled out Portsmouth, but it's Portsmouth. Yeah. Anyway, I have two radio personalities joining me, basically from the same area, out of WMNH in Manchester. I have Matt Connarton. How you doing, brother?
Doing well. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. And then just about 20 miles from him, I have one of our bearded brothers, even though his beard's much shorter than mine or Colonel Wyatt's, John Grosvenor of WSMN out of Nashua. How's it going out there?
Oh, doing well. Thank you for having me on. And I'm working on the beard. I got to get that Chris Wyatt thing going on. But before I can get to Chris Wyatt, I've got to get to Billy Painter.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Chris has been growing that beard for 2 years.
How long is his beard? Is it like down?
He's like Gandalf.
Really? Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I should send you a picture or something sometime. And I have to get your contact information from you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is as long as I let mine get. I don't like it when it starts to itch. It drives me nuts.
So you're the stubble kind.
Yeah.
Hey, at least you got something.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So first off, I just got to ask both of you guys something here. Of course, there's a mutual idiot that Matt and I deal with quite often. Somebody who claims he's on the right-wing side of politics, but acts a little bit too far right, if you ask me, and has displayed some rather disgusting ideology. But him and his buddy, they said now, and I just got to get both of your opinions on this. They said that I have no right to call myself a patriot because I never served in the military.
Yeah, I heard it was bearded patriot, I think was what he was saying, right? What was the term that you have?
Well, yeah, I mean, Bearded Patriots is the organization that I started, of course, that John is also a part of.
Yeah.
But he basically said, I have no right to call myself a patriot with no military background. Last I checked, you don't have to have served in order to be a patriot.
Yeah, well, he says a lot of very strange things. He at one point was claiming that he had been in the military, which I'd never heard him say prior to that. And I can't imagine the military would take him. And I don't even say that to be mean or funny to him. I just mean, he's clearly mentally ill. So I don't know. But yeah, it's a strange assertion that he made, but he makes many strange assertions.
I have to apologize. I'm a little out of the loop on this one. Who are we talking about?
Okay, we're talking about. I'll just say it because we're not live on WMNH, but this gentleman by the name of Crazy Joe out of New York, he calls himself a patriot, but yet he had no problem calling me an in lover and got himself kicked off of an online platform, and basically just says some of the most outlandish things you can imagine.
I got to tell you, I think it's kind of idiotic on his part because obviously he doesn't know the true definition of a patriot. Okay, it's pretty obvious. If you love your country, you're willing to stand up for your country. You don't have to serve to be patriotic. You don't have to serve to be a patriot. You serve in many different ways too. It's not a matter of being in the military and hoorah. Sometimes you get involved in voting processes. Sometimes you get involved in the political processes. Sometimes you get involved in just advocacy and awareness, and that's patriotic activity too. Sometimes you like to fly your flag for it too. It's just
Absolutely.
You don't have to serve, man. I didn't serve, and I'm just as patriotic as the next guy. And believe me when I say it, I'll stand up for this country. I'll die for this country. But it doesn't mean I had to go to a foreign land and kill other people just to show my patriotism. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Exactly. I agree 100%.
Well, you should hear the things, John. You should hear the things he says about me.
Well, he's already called me a leftist liberal and all this stuff, and I'm a communist, and I it's clear in my videos, you know, obviously, Matt and I, we've had a little bit of political discussions before, and we agree on some things, we disagree on some things, you know, and it's, but even if you're both if you're both left or you're both right, you're still gonna agree and disagree on some things too. That just comes in naturally, you know?
I
Yeah.
see what's going on here. I see what's going on. He sees you guys getting some notice and he wants to get some notice too. So he attacks you guys to get attention on him. So I see this play. I know this game.
Oh yeah.
John, he's a star. It's on the rise, and he's gonna take all our listeners.
Oh, I got you.
All right. But anyway, moving on to the conversation at hand, though, is the New Hampshire preliminary or primaries. I like to say preliminaries. I don't know what, just by habit, I guess. But the primary elections, I think, wrapped up just a few days ago, and you guys are now gearing up for November. But Matt, starting with you, there's one person on the ballot. I mentioned their name on your show, and your tone did not inspire very much confidence. And that would be, of course, your Democratic Senate.
Oh, yes. Maggie Hassan.
Yes.
Republicans prefer to pronounce it Hassan, but it is Hassan. Yeah, Maggie Hassan. I do think she's probably pretty safe. I think she'll win re-election, but she used to be our governor and then was elected to the Senate. My biggest issue with her is, I'm an independent. I lean left in a lot of ways, but I'm also very libertarian in a lot of ways, and conservative too in some ways. Although those the ways that I'm conservative are not as obvious, but I do have some conservative attitudes too. But my biggest problem with Maggie Hassan, and Billy, you know this as someone who's, you've heard my show, obviously, I'm very much opposed to the drug war. Not only do I want to fully legalize cannabis, but I want to end the drug war. Maggie Hassan is wildly pro-drug war. She loves the drug war. She thinks it's just wonderful to put people in prison for possession and use of cannabis, and there's no talking her out of it. She made that very clear when she was governor of New Hampshire. She didn't want to hear anything about, the reason we finally even got to decrim in New Hampshire, decriminalization of cannabis, is because we had enough Republicans in our legislature, Republicans and Democrats voting together to decriminalize it. But when Maggie Hassan was governor, she wanted nothing to do with it. John Lynch, another Democrat, before her, his wife is a doctor, and he wanted nothing to do with even medical cannabis. It's just crazy. So, and there's other things I could pick on Maggie Hassan about, but her position on cannabis is so indefensible and disgusting to me. And it makes it, so much so, I feel so strongly about the issue, it makes it hard for me to even give her credit for some of the things. I probably agree with her on many things. I probably agree with her more than I disagree with her as kind of a left-leaning person, but she infuriates me on the cannabis issue. Absolutely indefensible.
John, I'll go ahead and have you give your take on Miss Hassan, or Hassan, however it's pronounced.
She's definitely left. It is Hassan in New Hampshire. From my understanding, it's a Mideastern last name. So some people would normally probably say Hassan.
Yeah.
In New Hampshire, we pronounce it Hassan. I think that's because she probably does. At any rate, she definitely votes the way of her party. She's far left leaning. She tries to play like she's middle of the road. I don't think she's a moderate at all. She's not, you know how it is. Every election period, everybody's a moderate. Everybody's always, well, I'm a bipartisan candidate, and I vote with the Republicans too. And they don't. They just lie. And I got a segment now I'm starting called Hassan Lies, because I'm for Bulldog and I support Bulldog. And I see her, she's misleading the public in her page. She takes a soundbite, a typical media move, really, right? When you want to run down the opposing party or the opposing candidate, and you take a sound bite, you blow it out of proportion, and you don't give them the full picture. You just keep them in that little tiny spot right there to look at. And so to me, that's lying. It's misleading the public. And so that's what she's doing. She's basically trying to lie her way to a win. I wasn't really aware that she was for the drug war so much, and I agree with you there. She probably Matt, that the drug war has proven not to be effective. In fact, it's probably been counterproductive. And
Agreed.
as far as marijuana goes, I have no problem with the legalization of marijuana, but I would prefer to be on a federal level, not on a state level, because it is a federal law, and according to the supremacy clause, federal law rules, you can't really make it legal until federal does in that regard. Now, the nullification of the gun bill, or the gun bill that nullifies any enforcement of an unconstitutional right in New Hampshire, I approve of, because they're recognizing that under supremacy clause, you can't violate the U.S. Constitution, and that's what they've been doing. And I think that Don Bolduc does have a chance. However, I think it's going to be a very, very close election, because New Hampshire is just about divided evenly, and right now they're in the fight for the race for the undecided, for the moderate. That's where they're at right now. So, but I think Don Bolduc does have a chance, but Matt has a good point. She has an advantage because she's the incumbent.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So that's concerning. How do you feel, Matt? Do you want to see Bolduc win?
No, I don't like either of them particularly. The Don Bolduc, to me. So, and by the way, I much respect. I mean, I respect anyone who served. So much respect to General Bolduc, and I would thank him for his service, certainly. And I think I've interviewed him. Although I was talking about it on my show today, and John Hopwood seems to think that I couldn't have chronologically, but I thought I interviewed him on another show. But so Don Bolduc, I don't trust him because I noticed, and I think a lot of people are probably noticing this too. I'm sure they are, that he was very much an election denier during the primaries. Saying that, the Democrats stole the election and so forth. And then once he had clinched the nomination, all of a sudden I see him doing these media appearances where he's saying things like, well, I was skeptical, but I've since done the research and I've talked to different people. And now I realize that Joe Biden is in fact the duly elected president and that the election was legitimate. So, and I understand, I mean, that's part of how the political game works. Both Democrats and Republicans do it. The messaging during the primaries until they get the nomination, it's different. In the primaries, you really want to appeal to that base. And in the general, you really want to appeal to a broad electorate. But I think it's going, so it's predictable, but I think it's going to harm him in that I almost think it would have been better. He would have been better off in the general election if he had just said during the primaries, no, I think the election was fair, because I think it actually does him more harm than good in the general election. It makes him look disingenuous. That's how he looks to me.
Yes, I understand that. Yep.
So I think he may have misplayed his hand.
I got to agree with you. I was really disappointed that he said it the way he said it. He said it was a legitimate election, and Biden is our president, and so on and so forth. But he did go on to say, was there election fraud? Yes. Do the people of New Hampshire believe there was election fraud involved? Yes. And I find that very concerning. So he did kind of find a somewhat balance in what he said. And of course, because I do favor Bolduc, I'll probably defend him more than the average person.
Sure.
But I got to tell you, I've seen this before, where people say, well, if you do the count, if you look at the numbers, then Biden legitimately won. But if you look at what the Cyber Ninjas report said, there were too many anomalies. There were too many things going on. So they basically had the time to fix the numbers, and then they could fix the ballots to match the numbers. And in some recounts, they actually have more ballots than what they originally counted for Biden. And you do remember Windsor, New Hampshire, Windham, New Hampshire, they did a recount. Yeah. And they found there was issues there too. Not a large number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it. I think if the Democrats stole the election, I would think they'd do more than, I mean, they stole the election for Biden, but forgot to steal it for Dan Feltus, who was challenging Chris Sununu, and by the way, I voted for Chris Sununu. I split the ticket. I went for Biden and for the president and Sununu for governor. Dan Feltus didn't impress me at all. But I would think if the Democrats stole the election, it would have been, they would have done something down ballot. So I personally, I don't buy it.
There were so many anomalies, and there was I mean, Biden, first of all, at the beginning of the election process, right? We have the best election fraud team going. I'm sorry, but that to me was a typical Biden slip up. And I think there was something going on. And then they said, well, no. What he meant is in case of fraud or election stealing, we have a team to look for that, to prevent that from happening. And then turn around and say, well, there's no election fraud going on. It's like, dude, you had a team. Which one is it? So I'm sorry, there's too many anomalies, too many things saying there was sketchy behavior going on. But let's face it, guys, it's not just 2020. We're talking about 2016. And remember Hillary Clinton with Bernie Sanders in the primary of 2016. They were basically stealing it from Bernie. They stole it from Bernie Sanders, literally. And then you'd go back to 2008 election, or no, I'm sorry, what was it? 2000, the 2000 election, the Democrats swore up and down there was election fraud. And believe me, I was with them on that one because I thought there was some issues going on because I don't trust electronic voting necessarily. It's too easy to fix electronics. I love technology, but I don't like how it gets used sometimes. It's getting worse because we're in what they refer to as a fourth industrial revolution. And that revolution is technology.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, there's a way to cheat even on paper. I understand that, but it's a lot easier to cheat with technology, a lot easier.
Yes, you can fix it.
Yeah, I mean, but I think, paper, count by hand, then again, you got to watch who's counting the vote. But one thing this is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard, but they said, if you don't want to go to Dominion voting, then we're going to try this. Basically, you step into a voting booth. That's kind of like a Catholic confessional thing where you're talking to somebody on the other end, telling them who you want to vote for, and they mark it down for you.
I haven't heard of this, really.
I'm not going to trust that.
I'm not buying that one. They did have some video recordings. I think it was in Pennsylvania where somebody was opening up the mail-in votes, and he had a pen and he was marking down the votes. And it's like, why are you marking on the paper? Why you're supposed to be sliding into a machine? Why are you marking on it? And they were also keeping people from what do you call them when they watch the voting process and stuff to make sure things are honest and fair and observers. And they were keeping them at such a distance they couldn't really see anything what was going on. So there was a lot of things that were happening that you questioned the election. Now, I'm not saying, Matt, I'm not saying you're wrong in terms of whether it was fair or legitimate. It may have been, and just because of all these anomalies, we're suspicious. You don't know. And
I just think Democrats would have done a lot better, because if you look at the 2020 election nationally, especially in state legislatures, for example, Republicans actually did pretty well. Losing the White House, but overall, Republicans did pretty well compared to Democrats. So personally, I'm not buying it. I'd be more persuaded if it were, this grand, like a blue wave.
Loaded up where you had all Democrats in the Senate, all Democrats in the House, and a Democrat president, it'd be very obvious, right?
Yeah. Then if it were a sweep, then it's like, okay. Exactly. How did that happen? But so I'm skeptical.
I think too, it has to do with favoritism. Sometimes I question, she does live in a very, very liberal area. So, and I mean, she's a representative, but she gets time and time again. I'm looking at this going, how does this keep happening? And then she gets to be Speaker of the House. And you hear the backstories on that too, that all the bullying and stuff behind the scenes that go on for that to happen. But
now, I definitely got to ask you guys here. I'm looking at your options for governor. Obviously, Chris Sununu is the incumbent. Your Democratic nominee, Tom Sherman, did he even have any competition? Because I'm not seeing a list there.
No, he was unopposed. I'm an independent, but and of course, John, you know how it works in New Hampshire. You have to make yourself whatever you want to make yourself so you can take that ballot in the primary. So, so I'm currently, and I didn't bother to unregister after, so I took the Democratic ballot, and yeah, Tom Sherman was unopposed. It's probably going to be, so it'll be him versus Sununu, and I will personally, I'll probably support Sununu again. I think he's the kind of Republican. Don't get me wrong, I have problems with him, but he's the kind of Republican that I tend to prefer, and he is very popular here, as John knows. I was saying the other day on my show, you know who the most popular politicians in America are? Republican governors in blue states. Not that New Hampshire is a blue state; we're kind of a swing state still. But governors like Sununu or Charlie Baker in Massachusetts, or Larry Hogan, or these governors who these Republican governors who are very successful in states where they really have to operate in kind of a bipartisan way. But I'm sure Sununu will win another term. It's not even exciting. He'll win.
He won by a landslide.
Oh yeah,
in the primary, and yeah, I said I think he'll take it again.
Yeah,
he might have a little bit more competition, but yeah, I think he'll take it.
Yeah.
Right now too, we got a lot of heat going on nationally, with COVID and things going on, the drop of the economy, the rise in inflation. There's so many things that are going on with a lot of Democrats in charge. I'm thinking that a lot of people are seeing this as a negative towards Democrats, and they're leaning towards the right. Now, we've seen this play before too, right? Time things go bad, everybody leans right, and things go bad with the right, everybody leans left.
Yep, that happened back in 2008, Bush in office, and
yes,
that was a bad recession then, and gas prices up to about $4 more a gallon back then.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it quite clearly.
Yeah, I personally, and this is an unpopular opinion, but I think people generally put far too much credit and or blame, depending on what's applicable in the moment, on the chief executive when it comes to the economy. So, gas gets expensive. I don't blame Biden. Gas prices are now falling. I don't credit Biden, just as an example. You know what I mean? I think there's so many different factors, but people do vote that way. I vividly recall 1992 was the first election I was eligible to vote in. And George H.W. Bush, after the first Gulf War, had a 90% approval rating. And all my friends and I were like, he's unbeatable. Then the economy falls off a cliff and he's out. He's gone. I mean, it really does go that way. People hold the president accountable or give him credit, depending on what's going on.
Well, the president has way more power than what he's supposed to have these days, with executive orders and privileges through regulatory processes. They basically, Congress has delegated their power to the president of the United States with the regulatory processes, to the point he can influence. A lot of people blame Biden because of the shutdown of the pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as that happened, we've seen gas prices go up, and all of a sudden, Biden's to blame. And he did, and in that regard, he did have a hand.
Yeah, he did cancel it. That was one of the first things he did. Yeah, I think it's a very small. I think it's a small drop in a very big bucket when it comes to that. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, that's fair. And you do make a good point, John. Yeah. Presidents do. I'm not, and I should clarify, I'm not saying the chief executive has no influence on the economy, because you make an excellent point. From a regulatory standpoint, with executive orders, there is a lot that they can do that affects it. I just don't think it's nearly on the scale that most people do. But you make a good point about regulatory.
Because where your point is valid is, we see this all the time with corporations. They want a bigger bottom line. They want a bigger profit margin, and they play these things. I mean, in 2000, what was it? Early 2000s with Bush, we had the oil industry going to Congress and complaining, and oil rates have got to go up because we've got to do more drilling. We've got to do more research. We need new refineries. We haven't seen any new refineries or anything, but man, they were bragging about profits, weren't they? Their profits were up there, man. They're bragging to their stockholders about how much money they were bringing them. We're all going, wait a minute, you were screwing us and bragging about your profits. So yeah, you're right. Corporations have a big play in this, and sometimes they play the government.
I'm glad you mentioned refineries too, because that has a big role in gas prices, and most people don't realize it's so much of it has to do with refinery capacity. and the lack of new refineries. You're absolutely right. And that's something most people miss, but it's a huge factor in the price of
I
gas.
am having a difficult time because we have a lot of oil in our ground. We have a lot of natural resources. We have so much oil. We can go on for probably another
Especially
century or two
the
easy.
Dakotas, right there. I mean, me, I'm kind of split on that myself because I am part Native American, you know, and it's like, do I really want to see them drill on the native land? It's like, you know, I kind of side with them on that, but at the same time, you know, there's a lot of money to be made, and you know, it could only work in everybody's benefit if we do drill,
Mhm.
if you know what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely. You know, you're right. And the thing about it is with native lands, we screwed the natives over so badly through time, you know, through history. And this could be a benefit to them if we were to share in the rewards and allow them to enrich themselves with it. And there's so much money in such huge volumes that it's not impossible for them to benefit greatly from it, providing people are willing not to be so greedy and do the right thing. And that's always been an issue within itself in the past.
Well, how does that work? See, I don't know much about this part of it. How does that work currently? Or is there drilling on native lands currently?
I'm not sure. I know they shut down one pipeline because they were piping through native land and through a lake. Remember that? And
Yes.
the native folks, they did not like it. They did not want it. They wanted it stopped. But of course, that might have a lot to do with what I just said about they weren't being enriched. They weren't being shared in the reward. They were being used and stepped on, and they were fed up with it.
Yeah,
You know,
I can't blame them.
You brought up something I never thought of, John, is that, you know, yeah, share the rewards there. And, you know, I think if we could work together a lot more on this, you know, and especially I think they have more of the mineral rights. So I think if we were to drill there, they're entitled to what I think 50% would be fair, and 50% is still pretty big.
It probably would. The thing about it is, and you know how mineral rights work, you own the land, but what might be 2 miles beneath that ground, they can angle drill and take that right up from underneath you. And we've seen that before, you know. I mean, I think some Arabic nations or something had some issues with that.
Yeah.
Wasn't Saddam Hussein doing that in Iraq? Wasn't he doing that to Kuwait?
Was it Kuwait? I don't remember, but I remember they were angle drilling and
yeah,
they were dipping into their raw pocket of oil and stuff and extracting it. They discovered that was happening. Like, wait a minute, no,
so sketchy. Yeah, geez.
Wow. So it's a difficult process to navigate, obviously, and it would take some kind of paperwork, you know, involve some agreements and contracts and such, and you know how that goes.
Absolutely.
By the way, Matt, it was 92. That was my first year I was eligible to vote as well. And no, I did not vote for Bush, but I didn't vote for Clinton either.
You went Perot?
I went Perot both years he ran, even though I knew in 96 he didn't have a snowball's chance in hell.
Right.
But I liked him a lot, and I voted for him again.
I've always said, and I might have said this to you at one point, Billy, if Perot in 92, if he hadn't gotten all weird and gotten out of the race and then gotten back in and that whole bizarre thing, if he had just stayed in the whole time, I think he had a shot. I think he had a shot.
Already, I don't go by what psychics say very much, to be honest with you. But there was a psychic that said just before he dropped out that he was going to win.
No kidding.
Yeah.
They're probably trying to make a bold prediction. So if it worked in their favor, you know, look, I'm a true psychic. But I agree with you guys. I like Perot. He was a feisty guy. He was a smart guy. And I always thought we need a good businessman like him. And that's one of the reasons. I don't know how you guys feel about Trump, but I like Trump because he is savvy. He is a businessman. He understands how money works.
Yeah, that's where Matt and I differ, because you know, he's
not a Trump fan, huh?
No.
and he knows
he knows
that I am. That's a funny thing too, though. That's why that guy Crazy Joe, you know, the way I kind of get disgusted with him, because I feel like people like him make us Trump supporters.
Well,
I'll tell you
I
what, man, I've been in Manchester two times during Trump rallies.
yeah,
That guy is like a rock star. He fills the arena, man. He fills
yeah,
it. The second time I was down there, right there where the ice rink is. I was
yeah.
down there standing right in front of him. It was great. I was talking to some of his campaign team and got nowhere near Don Jr. though when he was there. They
Yeah.
kept us away from him.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was walking out. He did an interview up top on the they had the platform.
Yeah.
Up there doing an interview before Trump arrived and such. And when he come out, they kind of created a wall and stuff, and they had barriers up where you couldn't get to him. I was hoping to get up to him and get a conversation with him, but it wasn't happening.
Build a wall. Interesting.
Huh.
One other thing I want to bring up too is understand since you already brought up Trump, you have a Trump endorsed candidate. Caroline Leavitt? Boy, young girl too. She's only 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know anything
She worked
about
for
her,
the-
to be
she worked
honest
for
with
the
you.
White House as a on the secretary as assistant to the I'm losing it here on the who does the circle back gen business.
Jen Psaki?
Yeah, what was her
Oh.
position? I've lost the title.
Press secretary.
Press secretary. She was assistant press secretary, I think, of the White House during the Trump administration.
Yeah, I just pulled up her website. Yeah, Caroline for Congress. Yeah, I don't know much about her at all, to be honest with you. But she's so young. I guess there's not that much to know yet.
I was surprised that she won. To be honest with you, I'm not against her. She seems pretty smart. She's very articulate. She should be if she was in worked in the press secretary's office. But she, you had Tim Baxter there. You had Mowers and some people that were more known and such.
Yeah, I would have thought Matt Mowers. That was kind of who I was guessing. I've met him. But yeah, she's a surprise. Yeah.
I thought so. So she's your wild card, and we'll see how that goes there in the first district.
Somebody
Yeah,
younger than AOC.
What's that?
I said somebody younger than AOC.
Yeah.
Yeah, AOC's in her 30s now, right? She's got to be
Early 30s. Yeah.
early
she's like
30s. Yeah.
31
Yeah.
or 32.
But that's what I was concerned about with her is because of her youth. It's not that she's not smart, but she's so young. She might have that a little be just a little naive going in and be able to be, manipulated.
New Hampshire is the kind of place, though, and John, you probably agree on this. New Hampshire, if you're young and getting into and running for office, New Hampshire is a place to do it. With this enormous legislature that we have, and I mean, I think there's more opportunities here than any other state for really young people to get into politics and actually have a successful run for office.
Yeah,
I can somewhere.
We have good state senators and reps and stuff here in New Hampshire. As long as they're behind her and supporting her, I think you got a good point there.
Yeah. I hate to say this, but we are definitely out of time. And,
That went fast.
yeah. These conversations do go fast. Before we wrap this up, and if you're listening on the podcast, the audio only portion, we're going to hit a music set of. Otherwise, you're watching this on video. That means it's the end of the video coming up soon. But John, starting with you, go ahead and give yourself a plug. Of course, I know you got a long website. I saw that, but I know you're a part of the Truckers Association. Plus, you're with us and our bearded brother, Colonel Wyatt, and the Common Sense Conservatives.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, my name's John Grosvenor. I co-host the Common Sense Conservatives on WSMN out of Nashua, New Hampshire. I have a website, truckersunitedforfreedom.com, in which I work in advocacy for truckers and the trucking industry. I'm not associated with the American Trucking Association at all. That's a whole different, that's the largest trucking lobby, and guys like myself aren't exactly fond of their take on matters within the industry.
All right, Matt, go ahead and give yourself a plug. Matt Connarton Unleashed, Monday through Friday.
Yes, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern at WMNH here in glorious Manchester, New Hampshire, as I like to say. And of course, you can also go to my website, mattconnerton.com, stream the show from anywhere in the world. And there's the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page where you can find the show as well. So please check it out.
Oh, yeah. So one thing I should mention too, and I wasn't sure if John was aware of this too, but also Common Sense Conservative archives that have been put up on the Bearded Patriots Rumble channel as well.
Oh, nice.
With
I did not know that.
with the top of the hour news segment cut out, I always put in a song there. So
That's the thing to do. Yep.
yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate both of you guys giving me a little bit of your time and giving me your views and opinions. So
This was fun. I
Yeah.
appreciate the invitation, Billy. And John, it's nice to meet you.
Same here. It's awesome to meet you, man.
All right, man.
Yes.
Awesome.
I don't know who knows next. John's going to get an invitation to Matt Connarton Unleashed.
Hey, it's very, very, very possible. Right up the road or down the road or.
I assume you're on Facebook or
Oh
social
yeah.
media somewhere, and yeah, I'll look you
Yep.
up.
Yep.
I'll
Find
ping
me
you.
or I'll find you. We'll connect. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
All right, guys. It's much appreciated. Thank you very much.
All
Thank
right,
you.
guys. Thank you.